Every expert this time really feels like they're Shano the jungler actually hid his own belongings, diluting rare earth with original resources. Not only scared the nearby camel out of breath, but also almost caught fire while alive. He nearly burned his own hair. That day, a bored day was checking the shameless map. Accidentally, in the Ethiopian desert, he discovered 6 neatly arranged black dots. You should know, that's one of the hottest regions on Earth. Such a strange sight. Even puzzled seasoned adventurer Day, as the top dog of survival show and second in command of exploration, he decided to uncover the truth. So Day set out in person to investigate. Unlike previous challenges, this time he brought everything except anything usable was packed. He called a 4-pump ride to the airport. After meeting up with his backup food photographer, he splurged 25 cents to charter a Boeing jet. After a 3-day, 2-night long-haul flight, they finally arrived at the adventure's starting point. Given the unfamiliar surroundings and language barrier, Day's top priority was to find someone who spoke English, or as he called it, Ingridlish. He hailed a taxi for 9 cab heading downtown. He wandered the streets for a good while, but everyone spoke local piggy dialect and none knew a word of English. Just as Day was feeling helpless, a sudden hello from the crowd instantly caught Day's attention. Xiaobai was the only local, with both elementary and college degrees. After a smooth exchange in fluent English, Day learned from him that to reach the desert from here, it would take at least a week on foot. Seeing Day's unfamiliarity with Xiaobai offered to assist him. The two quickly agreed to work together. But to reach their destination, they had to find a reliable camel caravan. Locals used words as their form of currency. Locals used verbal promises as their form of currency. Each brick was worth the equivalent of US dollars. After getting the detailed address from the local dealer, Xiaobai hailed a 3-wheeler. The group headed grandly to the station, but the driver, Xiaomei, upon seeing De with his cameraman, rejected them without hesitation. Luckily, Xiaobai was clever enough to suggest De use his charm. Only then did Xiaomei warm up to them. Later, she even had someone help carry their bags. They all got into a minivan. Heading to the nearest village to the desert, camel caravans were seen everywhere, making De exclaim with excitement. The man in the front seat, Ali, was a renowned local intellectual. De learned a lot of useful info from him. After 2.5 hours on the road, they finally reached the desert's edge. Locals kindly arranged a place for De to stay. Camels in the distance, he grew more excited for the adventure. At night, he took a cold shower first, then got a good night's sleep. He woke refreshed the next morning. Today's task was to get gear for the desert. Besides that, they needed a local to act as guide. The black-skinned man they met before was clearly the best candidate, but to bring him into the group, they had to include his blood brothers too. Just like their team grew from 3 to 7. Of course, they still needed camels for cargo, so De paid per bottle weight, 15 cents each, to rent 7 camels. By dawn on the 4th day, before the sun could scorch their heads, they set off with great momentum. But since they were many, they had to stop soon after and rest for a few hours. Panicking wouldn't help now. Might as well have a cappuccino and relax. But in the blink of an eye, a whole day had passed. The Black brothers had no intention of moving. Some were eating flatbread, some were just chatting. If they kept moving at this pace, De might not reach the destination until next year. With no other option, generous De gave each person a raise of 200. Only then did they agree to continue. After walking for a while, they arrived at a salt field. Sharp-eyed De spotted a business opportunity. Salt bricks here were known as soft gold. There were camels nearby too. If he could bring back more bricks, he might make a fortune. But unexpectedly, the stubborn camel didn't cooperate at all. Just getting up once, it smashed the bricks to pieces. That really broke Dee's heart. Salt bricks aren't sold by weight, after all. Now these broken ones were worthless. Even with money in hand, he couldn't afford more losses. He emptied his pockets to pay for the damages. Then they set off again in full force. Soon, they arrived at another village. This would be the last supply stop in the desert. De feared the Black brothers might cause trouble again. Plus, he was nearly out of US dollars. So De decided to continue the journey alone. That way, he could finish the mission faster. He asked Ali to teach him commands for controlling camels. Turns out, De was quite talented. In no time, he had the camel under control. As everyone knows, the key to desert survival is water. So De bought a water skin made of sheepskin from locals. It was for holding water. Aside from a strong smell, it had no real drawbacks. Finally, he double-checked all the supplies and he packed sunscreen and a medical kit on the 5th day. Everyone helped De pack his luggage. Der cameraman Tom besten darauf, Abraham rucksack war Shanjan Yug Provia, nach mehr vorit ren untig Jiwiza, match dem Abschied von Ali, match and den anderen mitzwei Kamlin allein auf den und dies trenden heise Jungs. Genials deutlich schneller voran, als der erst Sonnenstrahl dierd traf. Hatter schon Eber zen Meilen geschätzt, eastward so reibungslos weiter schon 7 or morgens. Sieg das Thermometer erschreckend 42 Grad. Doch mehr als die Hitze and dehydrieren. Fruchtiger die Unberechenbarkeit der Kamel. Nakiher den Satz beendet. Merkter, das hinter Kamel unruhig word. Wasser vorit. Wären auf diesem Kamel verstanden. When East Wegluft. Were das in Katastrophe für die Gans Mission. Die li also die Kamera sten and rat hinter her. Doch das Tier lief nur nach schneller Davon. When East so weiterging. Worden beide Kamel verloren also kehrte zurück zu Stut, Sisu Sakalzer mit Lieren Händen zurückum. War nur nach die Kamera in Ordnung Stau. Auch die Stut war spurlos verschwunden. Jetzt war die Katastrophe perfekt. Beide Kamel waren weg. Wie sollte das seiner Oma erklären? Rief Commandos und rant den Kamel die Stut war nach nicht weit weg. Konnte sie gerade nach einfangen. Den machte sich auf die such nach dem Hangs. Zweieinhalb Stunden war unterwegs. Lief dabei 2 Kilometer zurück. Und holt beide Tiere wieder ein, den verlorenen Fortschritt aufzuholen. Lief die tapfer in der brennenden Sonne weiter. Nicht mehr konnte. Machte stellt schnell das Zelt auf. Goss sich ein Glas Frisches, sah Biers Wasser ein. Und dazu knuspriges Fladenbrett. Nach dem Essen legt sich die sofort hin. Am Nachmittag Janies weiter. Vielleicht hätte zu viel Wasser getrunken. Sein Magen begann zu rebellieren. Es war kaum ausschulten. Die setzt sich unter einen Baum. Before die figured things out, his inner chaos was already out of control, just like in an internet cafe. Ho! That outburst scared the camel nearby. He never thought his water storage was more effective than a camel's hump. Even funnier, the water pressure was so strong it knocked out to front teeth. Great. Now he whistles when he speaks. As it got darker, DE planned to light a fire for the night, but by accident, he almost burned the pit he just dug. Tonight, he planned to get a good rest. Tomorrow would be the final sprint. On day 7, DE set off before sunrise. He and his camel walked over 10 miles. Finally, some black shadows appeared ahead. Checking the satellite map, this was the dark spot he had worked hard to find. Clearly, they were man-made structures, but their purpose was still unknown to him, since he made it here. He decided to record every angle carefully. He would let experts analyze them later. If it turned out to be valuable, he might never worry about money again. Just as he was about to rest, a sharp-toothed stranger appeared before him. From him, he learned those rock piles were actually ancestral tombs. After learning their purpose, they headed to the village together. And with that, the challenge was complete. In Southeast Asia lies an island on the equator. With a dense, wild rainforest, many hidden threats lurk within. DE must not only survive here, but thrive as well. An incredibly difficult challenge. Now, atop a mountain peak, he begins the survival challenge. No survival gear, no clothes, not even a strand of hair. Only a backpack full of camera gear. In such an extremely humid environment, the human body loses water faster. Water sources are especially critical at the moment. Following the usual routine is best. Head straight down the slope. The slope and mountaintop feel like two worlds. DZ was instantly surrounded by dense plants. He moved cautiously downhill. He must reach the valley before dark. The thorns along the way gave DZ quite a hard time. He kept walking, dripping with sweat. Then he spotted a puddle of water. Though he was thirsty, DZ held back from drinking it. Diarrhea is no joke. He kept moving forward. He had been walking for 8 hours that day. Suddenly, he looked up. A slight smile appeared on DZ's face. A few steps ahead was a flowing stream. That gave him a lot more confidence. Before drinking the water, he thought about building a shelter. He approached a large tree. The base looked suitable at first glance. But under the leaves, ants everywhere. Definitely not a good shelter spot. DZ decided to build his own. He gathered fresh leaves and nearby vines. Then he bent strong branches into shape, creating a curved shelter frame. He layered leaves on top. It took quite some time, but he finally finished the shelter. By now, DZ was exhausted from the day. He crouched by the stream and drank non-stop. Didn't care if it was clean or not. After drinking, he let out a breath. Then he dozed off a bit. By then, night had fallen. DZ returned to his shelter. No campfire. Mosquitoes everywhere. But after a busy day, he was too tired. He drifted off to sleep. Before sunrise the next day, DZ was swarmed by thousands of. He got bitten by mosquitoes all over. Woke up feeling pretty awful. Came here without getting any food, but already got drained by bugs. As the day brightened, DZ first headed to the stream. There he found a piece of iron, perfect as a tool. Then he gathered soft dry wood. He had no plan for a campfire today. Otherwise, the mosquitoes would feast again. Back at the camp, he started making tools using a traditional fire-starting method. After intense rubbing, some smoke appeared, but after dozens of minutes, DZ was nearly exhausted. He lay down to rest a bit, then walked to the stream. Earlier, his foot had been scratched by thorns. Now the wound seemed to be getting worse. Looks like his body's passive skills were reaching their limit. He rummaged through the forest and found some wild ginger. DZ broke it open and found it tasty. Nearby was a spiky palm shoot. Hard to handle, but he used simple tools to deal with it, revealing the tender inner part. It was crisp and delicious. DZ praised it repeatedly. Stafford, why haven't you been eating these? Then he went for a high-protein larva. After eating so many plants, he regained some strength. Then he resumed fire starting. After dozens of minutes, a large spark formed on the wood. He quickly placed it in the tinder, but as he blew on it, the fire died out. DZ felt a bit down. He walked to the stream, thinking maybe he could try something else. He stepped into the water, wanting to refresh himself. Then he saw some fish, and there happened to be a bottle nearby. He separated it and flipped it over to trap fish. Just like that, he made a fish trap, then placed it into the water. After that, he crossed a log bridge. Back at camp, he lay down to rest. Got up and returned to the stream, eagerly checked the trap, entered the water, found his bottle mostly empty, but nearby was another one. It had been there a long time. Inside were lots of little fish and shrimp, all lively and jumping. DZ popped them into his mouth one by one, very satisfied with the food. He also replenished a lot of protein. As night fell, without a campfire, DZ covered himself with leaves to stay warm and keep mosquitoes away. The next morning, the first thing he did was try to start a fire, but after some rubbing, the bowstring broke. Failures in a row nearly broke DZ emotionally. He forced himself to focus elsewhere. First expanded his shelter, covered the top with fresh leaves. After a while of hard work, the shelter grew much larger. DZ also felt much better mentally. He picked up the bow drill again, worked diligently and intensely, gave it all he had. When a spark appeared, he dared not let his guard down. He placed it into the tinder. This time, he was extremely careful. With a gentle blow, he successfully lit the fire, almost burned his face, but you could see DZ shouting with joy. For DZ, this fire was hard-earned. You got a fire. Yes. Having a campfire means the basics of a comfortable life. It made him truly excited. Later, he boiled clean hot water to drink. As night returned, DZ enjoyed grilled crab, crispy and full of seafood flavor. Its protein might rival beef. By early next morning, DZ tidied his shelter neatly. Next, he focused on finding food. He went to the stream, walked along the water. This was his first real exploration here. After some walking, he found a pool. It was incredibly beautiful. Then an idea came. Why not bathe alone for once? After washing, he felt refreshed. Energy quickly returned. He slowly felt better. Then explored nearby. Found traces of animals. DZ acted right away. Set up entertainment for the animals. Installed several hunting traps. Placed many of them, then returned to camp, satisfied. The campfire was nearly out. DZ almost panicked. Luckily, he saved the flame, added more wood to keep it going, then walked to the stream again. First checked the wound on his foot. It seemed to have gotten worse. To treat it better, he collected many vines nearby, tied them all together. Back at camp, he made a hanging bed off the ground. That way, resting would be easier. After a short break, he resumed food hunting. Only found one tiny beetle. Not much to choose from. He ate it directly. Expected it to taste bad. Maybe he was too hungry. DZ actually found it tasty. Wished he had a few more. He stood up to explore more. Suddenly, heavy rain fell. DZ had to rush back to camp. Outside, it poured hard. DZ's shelter was completely waterproof. It was impressively solid. He sat inside the shelter. His feet were being bitten by bugs. He couldn't go outside that day. Just waited slowly until nightfall. By early morning, DZ woke up starving. He dreamt of being a slice of bacon, drinking wild milk tea. He smiled blissfully in his sleep, but quickly returned to reality. Time to search for food again. Set out to check the traps. When he arrived, the trap had been triggered, but it was completely empty. He reset the trap carefully, then returned to camp. His foot was aching badly. He tore a piece of cloth and wrapped it up. It felt much better. He set out again. First headed to the stream. An idea suddenly came to him. He planned to use more tempting bait. After a while, his head started feeling a bit uncomfortable. Half the material used to be. He split it into 2 stakes and placed them. Then headed back to camp. Spent some time maintaining his tools. Rested for a while. Returned to the stream. At that moment, DZ happily found fish and shrimp caught. But on second thought, he felt they had a strange flavor. He shook the thought away quickly and focused on processing the catch. Back at the camp, he put small fish in a pot. Soon he had fish soup to drink. DZ was full of praise. It was delicious and very nutritious. Maybe dozens of times richer than beef. He finished off all the small fish and shrimp, but that wasn't all. DZ then picked up a big skewer of shrimp. This day truly felt like a victory. As night fell, He lay down at the camp, slept peacefully until morning. DZ got up and dismantled the shelter. Today, it was time to go home. He strapped on his backpack, walked a while along the stream, finally arrived at a village. Everyone welcomed him warmly. DZ even got a big chicken drumstick. This challenge was a success. The wilderness master nailed it again. He rode a big motorcycle with 8 handlebars. Even when leaving the city, he had 2 armed guards escorting him. Because this time, the adventure was in northern Australia, in West Papua. On the map, there's a mysterious blank area. A phenomenon so bizarre that even a short-haired, narrow-sighted man like DZ was stunned. He couldn't suppress his curiosity. He had to explore the place. Due to the uniqueness of this trip, he packed everything, useful or not, even brought the emergency food photographer. Of course, hair wasn't needed. Spent 9.9 yuan to rent a successfully arrived in Jakarta, Indonesia. Still hundreds of kilometers to go. He hitched a ride on a quad bike. Unexpectedly, a pretty girl on board told him he had to reach the port first. That was the right destination. Only then could he proceed further. But there was no info at all. Not a single clue available. He had no choice but to ask the police. Have a problem? Ask the police, they say. But they said it was too dangerous. Local cannibals there prefer to target bald people. They told him to go back immediately. But DZ was full of passion. He insisted on going anyway. No one could stop him. He pulled out his devious map and recorded everything on tablet. From here on, he'd go it alone. He got in a locally famous taxi. The driver held the wheel with one hand and blocked the storm with the other. Everything made noise in this car, except the horn. Even the floorboard squeaked non-stop. Unexpectedly, once the driver heard DZ's destination, he grabbed his phone and shouted like crazy. Surprisingly, he contacted someone local, a well-known local figure. They sped all the way to Brother G's place. Once they met, they chatted excitedly. Brother G suggested switching to motorcycles since the road ahead was rough and long. It would take them 3 days to reach, so they hopped on second-hand bikes and sped toward the destination. The bumpy road was unforgiving. DZ shouted, "My hemorrhoids can't take this." They kept stopping and going. Mosquitoes kept swarming at them. Soon, the motorcycle's gear broke off. Helpless, they had to push it forward. Just dozens of kilometers of road. Took them more than 6 hours to cross. They didn't reach the first village until midnight. At dawn the next day, DZ woke up early and set off. In a remote coastal area, following the coastline was best. Their group set off in high spirits. They planned to travel over 100 kilometers. It was far, so they had to speed. Otherwise, they couldn't make it in time. In just 2.5 hours, they reached a remote village. But the rest of the road was not for bikes. They had to switch to a fishing boat. But all the boats had gone out to fish. There was no signal around either. Luckily, the locals had clever tricks. They took out a family heirloom mirror and used it to flash a signal. Soon, someone got the message. A nuclear-powered speedboat slowly arrived. After a quick conversation, DZ boarded the locals' luxury yacht and headed toward his destination. After another 2.5 hours, they arrived at a bustling tribal area. Now DZ was only 16 kilometers away, but according to the sketchy map, the remaining road was all swamp. And for swamps, the best way to travel is by canoe. They say this canoe is carved from a single log. It's the oldest known boat in the world, with over 6,000 years of history. DZ got on the canoe successfully. He lost balance and fell into the water. With years of bald-headed training and unwavering determination, he tried again, only to fall once more. Blackie nearby watched him like a monkey, laughing uncontrollably at his struggle. This mockery was just too much to bear. Fuming, DZ pulled out his secret weapon. He decided to leave G and the cameraman behind and row the inflatable boat alone into the swamp. After resting for one night, he started packing before dawn. At sunrise, he set off with his gear. A bunch of local guys saw him off. He said goodbye to his teammates, then rowed out alone in his boat. The narrow passage ahead was extremely tight. DZ had to use his hands to push aside plants and move forward. After rowing for 6 hours, he had only moved for kilometers. As expected, after a while, he got lost in the swamp. The sky was getting dark. He found a clearing to set up camp, built a rain shelter, and lit a big fire. Then it started pouring heavily. With a pack of wild curry chicken, life felt surprisingly great. After a good meal, he even took a bath. Of course, he also washed his scalp. The next day came quickly. As he stepped out, he saw hungry female mosquitoes swarming outside. He packed quickly and got ready to go. Before leaving, he cleaned up a bit and made some fresh iced tea. Then he continued moving forward. He didn't spare any flowers on the way. Stuffed them right into his mouth for breakfast. After rowing for a while, he unexpectedly hit the morning rush. Had to help with traffic control. Locals were cooking breakfast by the shore. It looked like a lot of work, but surprisingly, the food looked quite nice. Then he rowed for another 2 hours. His GPS showed he had reached the destination, but all he saw were endless reeds. Nothing looked mysterious at all. This totally confused DE. To uncover the truth, he headed to a nearby village and struck up a conversation with a local. With his shiny bald head, he won the guy over. Then followed a young man to the tribal center. Each thatched hut here sat like a standalone artificial island. Got to admit, the locals were very hospitable. On their first meeting, they gave the pale egghead a luxurious, thatched hut. Inside, DE opened his sketchy map, pointing around. He tried to figure out the mysterious white lines, but he couldn't understand the man's reply, and clearly, the man didn't understand him either. They ended up miscommunicating all afternoon. He had no choice but to call Jede. They agreed to meet the next morning. That night, within 10 miles, all the pretty girls came to see the bald hunk. Just like that, DE had a lovely evening surrounded by village girls. It was a beautiful night. Early the next morning, 2 young men came to wake DE. Through a little dance, DE expressed that he needed to go to the toilet. The 2 handsome guys then escorted him to a mysterious place. There, DE could finally let loose. After finishing, he felt so much better. On the way back, he returned to his usual chatty self. Luckily, Jede arrived just in time. Now they could finally communicate verbally. Didn't know before, but asking revealed the truth. This area is actually a sacred land for the locals. Bald outsiders are not allowed to enter. When all seemed hopeless, a breakthrough came the next morning. They were to take DE to see the tribal elder. They rode swiftly along the way. DE only needed to lie in the boat. Soon they reached the elder's residence. He received a spitting ceremony. Spitting from elders is considered highest honor. After this, he could visit the sacred land. Just like that, they grandly arrived at the mysterious place. The area. There, DE took out his drone treasure and filmed the most mysterious moment. It was actually just some rice fields. The white lines are reeds moved along water paths. Over time they formed this pattern. As for why reeds were cut in such lines, it's to help the reeds regrow more easily. At last, the muddy mystery was solved. DE successfully completed the challenge.